Hey everyone, today I'm taking a look at Galileo Project, which is a 2 to 4 player board game designed by Adrian Hessling and published by Sorry, We Are French. This one takes around an hour to play on average. Before I get started on my review of Galileo Project, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor and place where you can pick up a copy of Galileo Project, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer here in the UK. And if you use my link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Okay, so I've just finished a 3-player game of Galileo Project here, and in the center of the table you're going to have this board, which is mainly a storage area for the different components. So you have 2 card rows. At the top you have these robot cards, and at the bottom you have these character cards, and in between them you have this influence track, which diverts off into 2 different paths. So you have the blue track and the red track, and this is relevant when it comes to drafting these different cards. To the left hand side of the board here you have these 4 different technologies. And depending on the player count, you're going to have more or fewer of these in the game, so that not everybody has access to them. And on the far left-hand side, you have these public objectives. These are modular, so they're going to be different each game. And they're going to be different things you're going to aim towards, and the sooner you do things, the more points you're going to get. So for example here, if I was the first person to achieve at least 4 robots of level 6+, then I'd get to put my little medal down here and show I've got 5 points, but of course the points are going to get worse the slower you are to achieve them. Towards the right hand side of the board here you have the kind of placement areas where you can put all the different components. So you have the cards here. You have these energy tokens, which are quite a powerful resource in the game. You have these robot level trackers, and you also have these rather nice poker chips, which are another currency in the game. Now, each person's personal setup is going to look like this. Now, bearing in mind, this is towards the end of the game, so you're not going to have all these cards, but you will have the main action board that looks like this, which relates to these 4 separate planets. And the idea is you ought to be climbing the tracks on these planets to unlock new abilities and also to give you end game victory points. So you can see the further you climb, the more points you're going to get. The objective of the game, of course, is to get as many victory points as you can, and you're going to do that by looking at all the different tracks you've climbed on those 4 planets, any character cards you have tucked under your player board, any technologies you have, and any of those in-game objectives you achieve as well. And the game end will be triggered as soon as this character deck is completed, or depleted I should say, or until somebody has built 10 robots. Okay, so let's show you how the game actually works. So the game is essentially broken down into 3 phases, the first of which is an optional one where you can choose to flip your influence marker from one track to the other. So you can see here the red player is currently on the blue track, but if they wanted to change it to red, they can choose to spend one of these credits, bearing in mind you only ever have a strict capacity to hold 10 of those at any time. And if you do that and spend that credit, you can flip it from one side to the other, staying on the same influence level. But as I said, that is completely optional. You do not have to change if you do not want to. And then you'll go into the main action phase where you have one of 3 possible options. The first of which is to acquire a new character. The second is to acquire a robot. And the third one is to acquire a technology tile. So let's start with the characters, which is probably the most frequent action you'll take. So when you do this action, you are going to take a look at these characters, assess which ones you want, and then select one. So let's just say I chose this one here just because it's the cheapest essentially. What I'm going to do is I'm going to gain a level of influence equal to this number here, and I'm going to stay on the track I'm on. So let's just say I was the blue player, I chose this character, I'm going to gain 5 influence and go up to 8. Like so. Now, something to bear in mind is that if you ever kind of go off the track, you will gain a credit no matter how far you push. And also, depending on the track you're on, you will either get the blue ability or the red ability. Now, the ability at the top is always going to be an instant reward, and the one at the bottom is going to be an end-game objective, which you can work towards by tucking it under your player board like so. So this one would be another 2 points for each public objective I achieve. But because the blue player selected this one and he's on the blue track, I'll therefore get the top ability in this example and get another 3 influence. And there's a ton of different things you can do here, such as getting more credits. I'm getting points based on characters you have tucked under your board. I'm get to move your robots around and so on, even getting energy. Something also worth mentioning is that the further you are up this track here, the less influence you're going to get. So in this example, if I was to take this character, it would obviously get me 6 influence normally, but because it's on one of these spots, my influence will be reduced by this amount. So this would only ever get me 4 influence. The second option I have during the main action phase is to buy a robot. And when you do that, you're going to have to consider the color of the background in this section here. So this one would require me to be on the red track, and the amount of influence it's going to cost me is the number here. So let's just say as the red player, I wanted to buy this robot. It's going to cost me 3 influence of the red track. So therefore I would go down 3 like so. I would acquire this robot card, and then I'd have to assign it to my player board based on the available planets here. So this particular one can only go on this planet because it's got the matching symbol there. I would add it on here like so, and then I would increase my influence on that track equal to the power of that robot. So you can see at the moment, I should be on 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 influence. Therefore, I'd push up to 11 like so. Now, there are 4 different types of robot, and each time you place one, they are almost going to kind of build upon each other and get more powerful. So if you ever have or place a robot with this symbol on, or this type, you are going to gain a credit, and for each one you place, you're going to get an additional credit. So if I just place this robot, I'd get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 credits for doing so. Now, the other robots are ones like this, where it lets you take characters from the card row. Ones like this lets you upgrade the value of, or the strength of your robots to obviously let you climb those tracks faster. And there's also other ones like this, which allows you to use actions based on this little track here, such as gaining energy, getting more influence, and acquiring new character cards, getting credits, or even upgrading your robots. And the final of the 3 main actions you can take is to buy one of these technology tiles. And when you do that, you are going to spend the amount of currency in the corner here. So this one would cost me 1 energy and 1 credit. And then I would acquire the tile, which will give me some endgame scoring, but it'll also give me an ability, either instant or ongoing. So this one means that whenever I acquire a credit from now on, I will gain an additional credit. So no matter how many I gain, I always get 1 more. This will give me an initial and immediate income of 4 credits and 4 influence. This one here will let me upgrade all my robots to level 7, and this one here will allow me to draw 4 robot cards from the deck and build one of them for free. And once you've completed your main action, should you have completed it, you have the option to claim one of these public objectives. So let's just say I had say 4 technologies. I could put my little medal down here like this player has. Now, something that's important and quite a good option to take is that you can choose to cash in an energy token to reduce the requirement of that objective by 1 for each energy you spend. So let's just say I had only 3 technologies. I can choose to cash in an energy and still claim that one even though I am 1 short. So let's take a look at what the different planet tracks actually do. So the one in the top left-hand corner here simply allows you to get discount on acquiring robots the further you push. So let's just say I made it all the way up to this segment here. It means that if I choose to cash in 2 credits, I can get a 3 discount on the influence I need to spend on acquiring those robots. And you can do that multiple times should you wish to. The one here, this Europa planet, allows you to acquire energy as you reach these checkpoints. And also if you ever end up moving robots, which is an option, and you end up reducing your influence on those planets, you will also get the energy on the way back down as well. So quite a useful thing to manipulate there. The one in the bottom left-hand corner increases your ability to tuck more cards under your player board, because you only start with a capacity of 2 endgame objectives, but the more you travel up this track, you can either put 3 or 5 or even 6 characters under your player board, and it'll also give you more flexibility when acquiring those characters. So if you remember, when you normally acquire a character, you have to choose one or the other ability depending on the track you're on, but this one will give you the flexibility to choose which ability you want. And if you make it all the way up to here, then you actually get both of the abilities, which is obviously a really useful thing to have. And the final one here will allow you to give these robot upgrades when you reach these checkpoints, where at the start of the game, you're going to begin with a bunch of these kind of tiles here. which are matching to the robot cards, and you can end up kind of building up or constructing your own robots like so. And you can also place these kind of planet tokens which show which planets you can go to. Now you can also use these to move other cards you've already built around. So let's just say I wanted to build this planet on this card here like so. I could shift that one to the other planet which I've just changed it to. So they give you more flexibility to almost zig and zag on your strategy as you go throughout the game, and they'll also give you multipliers based on your most popular type of robot. So you can see here at the moment I'm scoring 3 points for my most popular type of robot, which is this microchip one like so. And that is essentially how the game plays. You're going to keep on going through those 3 phases in player order until somebody has built 10 robots, and then you're going to play equal turns, or until that character deck has been depleted. Okay, so let's share some thoughts on Galileo Project. And I want to start with a pretty broad observation about the game, and that is that this game gives you a ton of positive feedback. It always feels like you are moving forward with good momentum. It definitely steers away from any feeling of kind of grindiness or that kind of tedium of just building up resources, even though that resource management is quite a big part of the game. You're always kind of spoilt for choices here. And that is because you only ever have 3 options you can possibly do on your main action, as a main action, and more often than not, you will be taking a character. And these characters give you nothing but positive stuff, which was quite a weird thing for me to process at first, because I was thinking, well, what's the negative of me drafting any character I want? And there isn't one. Basically, it's either going to be good or it's going to be really good. And I like the fact that it only takes 1 or 2 character drafts in order for you to have enough influence to buy a robot and add it to your tableau, I suppose. So it definitely does have that constant feeling of getting stuff. I'm getting instant rewards here, influence, the credits, getting to move robots around, getting energy, or I am building towards my endgame strategy by tucking things under your board. And even if you push far enough on this track here, this one here, you can actually get both of those rewards. So again, definitely constantly makes you feel good in what you're doing. Now, building the robots is obviously important because it's going to be one of the endgame triggers, but it's going to allow you to progress up those tracks. And all the tracks are really inviting and interesting in their own right. Not only because they're going to give you a ton of endgame scoring if you push far enough, but again, you can tailor your strategy around it. Maybe you want to push for the energy and manipulate things around so you keep on triggering the same spot there, and you could use those to end up acquiring new technologies there. The technologies can give you one-off or ongoing abilities that are all worth having, and they might even synergize to the objectives. Like in this particular setup, you want to be getting all the technologies because it's going to tie hand in hand with one of the in-game objectives there. So definitely a good kind of synergy between the different aspects of the game. And I like the fact that you can actually manipulate these around by using certain things. If you want to take this ability, you can end up shifting your robots from one spot to the next. And that might even tie up to some more endgame objectives, which, all goes hand in hand here. And I also like the fact that the more you spam the same type of robot, the bigger rewards you're going to get. Like, in my particular tableau here, when I kept on putting these robots down, I was pretty much drowning in money, which gave me a lot of mitigation in order to flip from track to track and do different things as well. So yeah, definitely a nice and concise game, but enough to think about without being too overwhelming either. I did enjoy that you cannot just go gung-ho and keep on tucking loads of cards under your board without investing enough in this track, because you do have a capacity of 6, and to get to that 6 you're going to have to push pretty damn far, and there is a lot of potential to get points here. But something I didn't mention during the main bulk of the video is that for each card you have tucked under your board, you need to spend a credit for at the end of the game or lose them. So you do have to make sure you have some left in your supply in order to get the full benefit from those cards that you've invested in. There is good potential to take big, powerful turns and combo things together. Like, for example, if you end up acquiring one of these robots, you obviously put it down on one of your planets, you'll move up that track. That might give you a bonus, but then also you might get to upgrade other robots as well, which might let you move up other tracks and give you other bonuses. And it all kind of, domino effects together to let you pull off bigger and bigger turns. I think the public objectives did a great job of giving the players something to aim towards, either short-term or long-term, added a bit of tension into the game as that race aspect come through, and you want to be beating the other players to the punch to get there sooner, of course. And I also thought that it was a good touch that, should some of these objectives slip out of your reach, Like, for example, if I couldn't possibly get all 4 technologies because there wasn't any left, I can choose to reduce that limit by spending an energy and still make it a viable option. So just a nice little touch of flexibility there. The flow of this game is fantastic. It is a very easy game to digest in terms of explaining it. You know, the first thing you do, optionally flip the track, then take one of your main actions, which is, you know, they're all pretty clear in their own right, and then potentially claim an objective as well. So very clean and crisp turn structure there. No room for ambiguity or anything like that. So yeah, I like the way that games boil you know, pretty meaty mechanisms here into a simple turn structure, and this game did it very well. This game does only take around an hour to play on average, which I actually think is quite a significant selling point because there's quite a lot going on here and there aren't many games of this weight that do take that quick to play. So it's not too bad to set up and it's very quick. You know, the turns themselves are pretty snappy. There's not much downtime at all because, again, they're all quick to resolve. So player engagement and the time investment is pretty damn good, to be honest. The player interaction mainly comes from beating people to the public objectives and beating people to acquire the technologies. And of course, you are all drafting these cards from a communal row there. So you might inadvertently end up taking cards that other players want. But other than that, you are mostly doing your own thing, focusing on your own engine. So bear in mind that this isn't a terribly interactive game, but there's just enough going on if you are more of a Eurocentric player. The production for this game is spot on. The card quality is generally decent. All the components are, you know, very good quality, especially these poker chips. These are like iron clay quality, very good components here, and are probably the, you know, the most standout parts. But the player boards look great. The iconography is crystal clear, and I'm generally not a big fan of the visual aesthetic of kind of sci-fi or space-themed games, but I think this one is very nice to look at. It's nice and vibrant, and it just works for what it does. So yeah, I'm very happy with the production for Galileo Project. Okay, so let's share some final thoughts on Galileo Project. And I have to say, this game is a pleasant surprise for me. I wasn't quite sure what to expect from it, but it turned out to be a very concise, a very snappy, and a nice, well-rounded game with no obvious pitfalls at all. And it's quite difficult to achieve that, or to achieve a design that's not directly comparable to another one, especially when it is of this weighting. You know, this isn't a terribly complex game. You can teach it pretty quickly and there's not too much to mull over, but enough to mull over to keep it interesting. So it definitely strikes that nice balance of kind of bridging the gap between kind of gateway games or, you know, gateway engine builders, gateway Euros to that mid-weight level. So it's a nice stopgap between the two. Now that might be where the game falls short for you, because I think if you have a dedicated group of gamers, you know, committed to the hobby, then this one might have a shelf life. Maybe you'll get bored of it or be ready to move on from it pretty quickly. But I think if you are regularly teaching games to, you know, somewhat experienced, but not brand new, but not, you know, very seasoned gamers either, then this is a good option. You know, you can't really go wrong with this one because it offers a lot of mechanisms here, some good engine building, some good drafting. You've got some tracks to climb, you know, the powers of the tracks, just enough going on here to keep it quite satisfying and interesting. And I thought it came together in a very harmonious design, and I enjoyed it way more than I was expecting to. So yeah, I would give this one a recommendation to that group of gamers for sure. And yeah, it's just a really well put together game. So that is Galileo Project by Sorry, We Are French.